Today we're going on an adventure deep beneath our feet to talk about something that might sound a little shaky: earthquakes. Specifically, we're going to explore why a place like East Tennessee, which is pretty far from the ocean, has been rumbling with over 600 small quakes. It sounds like a lot, but don't worry, we're going to break it all down. Imagine the Earth's surface isn't one solid piece, but is instead like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Each of these puzzle pieces is called a tectonic plate. These plates are huge, continent-sized slabs of rock that are always, very, very slowly moving around. They float on top of a layer of hot, gooey rock called the mantle. Most of the time, we don't feel this movement because it's super slow, about the same speed your fingernails grow. But sometimes these giant plates get stuck. When they get stuck, pressure starts to build up, kind of like when you press two blocks together really hard. Eventually, all that stored-up energy has to go somewhere. Suddenly, the rocks slip or break, and that energy is released in the form of waves that travel through the ground. That's what we feel as an earthquake. The place underground where the rock breaks is called the focus, and the spot directly above it on the surface is called the epicenter. Now, you might think of big earthquakes happening in places like California or Japan, which are right on the edge of these tectonic plates, and you'd be right. That's where most of the action happens. But what about Tennessee? We're not near a major plate boundary. So what's causing all the shaking here? To understand that, we need to talk about something called a fault line. A fault is basically a crack in the Earth's crust. Think of it like a crack in a dinner plate. The plate is still in one piece, but there's a weak line running through it. Here in East Tennessee, we have a very special and very, very old system of faults. Scientists call it the Eastern Tennessee Seismic Zone. This zone is like a hidden network of ancient cracks deep underground, stretching from northeastern Alabama up through Tennessee and into Kentucky. These faults are leftovers from a time hundreds of millions of years ago when the continents were crashing into each other to form a supercontinent. It was a time of massive mountain building, and all that pushing and shoving created these deep cracks in the rock. Even though the continents have since moved apart, and those ancient mountains have worn down, the weak spots, the faults, are still there. They're like old scars. And even though Tennessee is now in the middle of a plate, the whole North American plate is still moving. As it drifts westward, it puts a little bit of stress on everything, including these old weak fault lines. So, when we talk about the 600 quakes in Tennessee, we're talking about small adjustments along these ancient faults. The pressure builds up a tiny bit, and then a small section of a fault slips, releasing a little burst of energy. Most of these quakes are so small that nobody even feels them. They are usually between a magnitude 1 and 3. Let's put that into perspective. The earthquake scale, called the Richter scale, is a bit tricky. Each whole number you go up is actually 10 times stronger in shaking and releases about 32 times more energy. So, a magnitude 2 quake is barely noticeable, if at all. You might mistake it for a large truck driving by your house. A magnitude 3 feels like a definite jolt, but it rarely causes any damage. The quakes that cause serious problems are usually magnitude 6 or higher. The biggest quake ever recorded in the Eastern Tennessee Seismic Zone was a magnitude 4.7 back in 1973. It rattled some windows and knocked things off shelves, but that was about it. So, why are scientists so interested in these hundreds of tiny quakes? Well, studying them helps us understand the personality of this seismic zone. By recording where and when these small tremors happen, geologists can map out the fault lines more accurately. It's like listening for tiny creaks in a house to figure out where the weak spots are. Each little tremor gives them a clue about the bigger picture of the stress building up in the Earth's crust in this region. This information is super important for things like building codes. Engineers need to know about the potential for ground shaking, even if it's small, so they can design buildings, bridges, and dams that are safe and can withstand a potential jolt. Knowing that we live in a seismically active area, even a mildly active one, helps us prepare. Does this mean a big one is coming to Tennessee? Well, scientists say it's possible, but very unlikely. The faults here are not like the San Andreas Fault in California, which is a major boundary between two massive plates grinding past each other. Our faults are what are called intraplate faults inside a plate. They don't build up nearly as much stress, While a magnitude 5 or even a 6 is theoretically possible in this zone, it would be an extremely rare event, happening maybe once every few hundred or even thousands of years. The most famous earthquake zone in our part of the country is actually a little to our west called the New Madrid Seismic Zone. In the early 1800s, it produced some of the largest earthquakes ever recorded in the United States. So powerful they made the Mississippi River flow backward for a short time. Our Eastern Tennessee Seismic Zone is the second most active in the central and eastern U.S., but it's much, much less active and less powerful than New Madrid. So those 600 quakes are really just the earth stretching and groaning a little bit. It's a natural process that has been happening for millions of years and will continue for millions more. It's a gentle reminder that the ground beneath us is not static. It's a dynamic and ever-changing system. So the next time you hear about a tiny tremor in East Tennessee, you don't need to be scared. Instead, you can think about the incredible slow-motion story happening deep underground, a story of ancient continents, hidden cracks, and the constant, gentle shifting of our amazing planet. It's a fascinating piece of geology happening right in our own backyard. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into Tennessee's tremors. I hope you found it interesting. If you learned something new, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you in the next video.